What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and today we're talking about the predictability of Final Fantasy XIV's content schedule. If you guys are new to Shadowbringers, if you're new to Final Fantasy as an expansion, you might not necessarily feel it's predictable. In fact, when we all jumped into Realm Reborn, it wasn't predictable at all. We had no idea what was coming, and it was just content after content after content, typically in a 3 to 3.5 month kind of cycle between patches. With each major patch, we know we get more main story, we get more dungeons, we get some form of a raid, whether it's the 8-man raid, in this case with Eden, or a 24-man raid, in the case with Near Dark Apocalypse, which is coming with 5.1, the first chapter of that. Along that, we always see lots of quality of life adjustments. We see a lot of different patches. We see PvP. We'll see eventually, a relic type grind that's going to be brought in. We'll see all kinds of this and more. And that's really kind of the subject here, because if you've been around for a while, if you're a veteran, this can all feel very predictable. And that isn't of itself a bad thing, and that's kind of what this conversation is going to be about. So like with all conversations and discussions, be sure to sound off in the comments below what you're thinking and what you're feeling, because to start off, Final Fantasy XIV is a game in which that you can take a break. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing because we all enjoy other games. It's a bad thing when you're 100% of your community, your social group, is within this one game. If you're feeling like there's not enough for you to do and you want to take a break, but this is kind of where your social group hangs out, it can run the risk of burnout, and that's not necessarily a good thing, but that's all kind of within the balance. If you think of Final Fantasy XIV's kind of content schedule, is it has a big drop of content with an expansion, then they kind of trickle out the various raids, and then with the next cycle, with 5.2, with the next Eden raid, that all drops day and date. So you don't end up having to wait week over week for the next big thing. Sometimes they might delay a feature or something like that, not outside of the raids, like with Blue Mage, like a week after or 2 weeks after. Kind of stagger it through the patch cycle, the 3.5 months, to kind of fill it out, so that when something drops and they know it's going to be hot, people can go do that, and they don't put a lot of drama or a lot of conflict on a player between oh gosh, I need to go do PvP, and then oh gosh, I got to go do this raid a lot of times, and oh gosh, they try to avoid those moments of stress. Same thing when daily quests are capped, and you don't kind of fill those up, because ultimately that can be kind of stressful if you got on and you're like, I have 1,000 quests I have to do before I can go do the fun thing that I really wanted to do today. So back to the topic at hand, because I know that if you're wanting to play and you're not finding things to do, that can be kind of frustrating. Now, we'll be putting out a guide pretty much on everything you can do at level 80. There's a lot of content. We're talking about leveling multiple jobs, crafting, gathering, maps, which will be dropping here on the 30th. Obviously, Savage raids, which will be dropping on the 30th. But sometimes some of that content isn't necessarily going to speak to you. And that's okay. It's, Final Fantasy XIV is a theme park, and there are some sandbox elements. You can always engage in role play. If you're over with Balmung or on the Crystal Data Center, that could end up being something you kind of participate in. You can always, level other jobs. There's a lot of roulettes, and there's a lot of group activities that we run and other content creators run, as well as just within the community that runs to be able to get engaged. If you go check out Reddit, you can also find other communities that are engaged more in PvP. So you don't want a long wait time, be able to go check out the Rival Wings or the Feast, or Frontlines. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of do to get engaged with maybe some things that you rarely don't have the opportunity to do if you're still looking to log in and really kind of try to either make some progress, kill some time, or just socialize, etc. The problem that I do see, though, is that while predictable is good and it helps us know what's coming, at some point there will be a time that kind of like a debt comes due. And not that the Square Enix owes us anything, but at some point where it's all so predictable that it just becomes mundane and it loses its excitement and its joy. And that's kind of where hopefully we see, and we've already seen, they do trickle it in. Square Enix be able to kind of put things in there. They brought in glasses and certain things for the different Viera and the Hrothgar, which is really good to see, really exciting to see the team put that extra effort in. The best thing about 14 isn't the story. I would say it's the dev team and the passion that that whole crew who works like tirelessly so that we can get some enjoyment and be excited about it. That's where kind of the difference maker is in any kind of predictable content cycle or even surprise content cycle. I think we've got a lot of surprises in store. Final Fantasy XIV has had a lot of technical debt. I think Stormblood hopefully was the bulk of that, and hopefully Shadowbringers is them being able to capitalize on over 2 years plus worth of work on the back end and the systems behind to kind of really bring 14 to where they want it to be and where they want it to go. Only time is going to tell ultimately if that is a success or a failure or just mediocrity, like just, okay, it is what it is, you know, forever forever the best expansion or the latest expansion is the best that people want to play, and you're always going to end up having the previous expansions blocking new players who are trying to get in and enjoy the game. If you're a new player, like you've got so much content to play. You also have, there's, you know, like we said with the updates, there's going to be a lot of new things for you. If you're an existing player and this all just kind of feels very samey, don't worry, don't stress. Like, it might be a good time for you to, you know, play what you want to play, and don't worry about like the next update, because the next update's going to come, it's going to bring you back in, and ideally take the social group out of the game specifically and into a kind of a bigger context with Discord and playing other games together, because really that's what it's about. The predictability itself, I think, isn't bad when it's consistently delivering great content. I think within Stormblood they struggled a lot. I didn't really connect with Eden. I really couldn't dive into PvP, and so it felt like there's updates to the game that just didn't speak to me that I wanted them to. I ultimately was like, I want to do I want to do these you know, these contents, and I just couldn't, you know, for many reasons we've talked about it here on the channel and don't need to rehash it here. I think that the next 2 years is going to be nothing but surprise. Yeah, we're going to get our dungeons. Yeah, we're going to get, you know, the things that we expect. But I think the surprises are going to come into the narrative and how the narrative is going to drive what we expect out of the future. I think that's going to be where these things change. I think that's going to be where we draw our excitement from. I think that's where they're investing that kind of time and effort, because it ultimately leads to kind of a bigger question as to what is the future of Final Fantasy XIV. A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, all good expansions in their own right, but ultimately are kind of also keeping people, or some people, away. Especially, we've talked about it in our Getting Started with Final Fantasy XIV guide. There's two blockers pretty much in ARR, the 31 to 49 grind and the 2.1 to 2.55 going into Heavensward. Like, those are two big roadblocks that a lot of players hit, and that kind of takes the life out of them. It sucks the wind out of them, and that's why we always encourage, just keep going. Just keep going. It's totally worth it. You guys are gonna really like it, but it's difficult, and that's a challenge that Square Enix needs to face. And how are they going to face it? We'll talk about that in a future video. Hopefully you guys look forward to that. I've got some thoughts, and I'd love to know yours on that. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this kind of discussion. Those are my thoughts. I really would love to know yours. What are you thinking about the content schedule? I'm excited to see what happens, but at the same time, I've got a ton of stuff to do. I'm leveling alts, right? So if I'm not necessarily working on Eden or I'm doing X, like literally I'm like, okay, working on the next job. And that's just something that I've always enjoyed in the game. I think ultimately when I have all my jobs capped, that's when I start to feel like, man, I wish I had something to do in the game other than just like log in for my weekly, you know, gear tokens and log out. We talked to Yoshi P about this, talked about kind of a glamour level, some way that XP would be valuable. He says he and the dev team are going to look into it. So I wouldn't expect that anytime soon, but at some point I think that's going to be something that could add a lot of replay value to it. Just like, how far can you get into a season or to an expansion? How many glamour levels can you get where the, you know, the points that you get or whatever are just fun for you to spend on, you know, just things that don't necessarily make you more powerful? Because if that would break the whole thing of the game. If you had to keep grinding every day just to be competitive, well, whew, buckle up, cowboys. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, sound off in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But for Work to Game, my name is Brian. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Whoa, you guys are the best. Jorge, Kyle, Philip, 31 Edwards, Rock Druid, Corey Longwith, Aaron, Axis, Hambone, Lady Wild Plays, CN Navs, this is going too fast, Christopher, Phil, Shun, Dragons, Soul, Keen, Knights, Assassin, Carlos, Sherry, Robert, Leyland, Davon, Tim, Jojo World, Terrace, Sora, Scrublord, Trevor, Mill, Almond, 70s, Kimber, Tyler, oh my god, I'm so sorry, Cody, Legend, Carlos, Endless, Jonathan, Jade, Cy, Derek, Brandon, Aaron, Riku, Daryl, Chemistrol, Lauren, The Wolf, the Gar, Kelly, Anthony, Solid, John, Huskree, oh my god, everybody, Dark Later, Christopher, Vestments, John, Nopi, Brian, Tom, Dylan, Silent, whew, I missed your names. I'm sorry. I love you all. Oh my gosh, that was tough.